you wake up. Your eyes aren't even open yet, but you already feel it. Today is going to be tough. Not because of a work deadline, not because you binged on TV shows last night, but because you didn't eat anything sweet yesterday. Not a single thing. And now your body demands compensation. Your dopamine levels have dropped, and cortisol, the stress hormone, has spiked. You head to the kitchen. You brew coffee, and your hand instinctively reaches for the sugar jar, or maybe for that yogurt in the fridge, the one labeled natural, no additives, for a healthy lifestyle. But you already know, without sugar, you won't truly wake up. Without it, the day won't start. Without it, there's an emptiness, felt not just psychologically but physiologically, trembling fingers, irritability, a foggy mind. And you're not alone. Billions of people go through this ritual every day. We call it a habit. But what if it's not a habit, but an addiction? What if what we consider a harmless pleasure actually works in our brain like a drug? And what if tomorrow sugar is declared a dangerous substance, like heroin or methamphetamine, and your morning yogurt becomes contraband? Imagine you're looking at a brain scan of a teenager who just drank a sugary beverage, and next to it, a brain scan of someone who took cocaine. You're not an expert, but even you can see it's almost the same pattern, the same bursts of activity in the pleasure center and the impulse control area. Neuroimaging doesn't lie. Sugar activates the same neural circuits as the most powerful psychoactive substances. Now think, how many times a day do you get this dose? In coffee, in pasta sauce, in bread, in yogurt, even in sausage. Your daily intake isn't just calories. It's a series of microdoses embedded in 67% of all processed foods in supermarkets. And you don't take them consciously, you take them automatically. Because your brain has long been trained to expect this reward. And it demands it again and again, like an addict waiting in line for a fix. By the end of this story, you'll understand how sugar became the most legal, most widespread, and most profitable drug in human history, generating $92 billion a year. You'll learn why it's not banned. Despite its devastating health effects, regulators prefer soft measures, and the industry has funded bogus research for years, shifting the blame to fats. You'll see what underground bakeries with biometric access would look like, where for $500 you could buy a slice of cake with pure cane sugar, and security scans veins for traces of substitutes. You'll understand why even healthy food, premium smoothies, granolas, yogurts, can be a trap that even those who consider themselves conscious consumers fall into. And most importantly, you'll ask yourself a question you won't be able to forget. How free is your choice if even the water you drink contains a hidden dose of fructose or corn syrup? This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a hypothetical reconstruction of a reality that is already close to us, closer than it seems. A laboratory in California, 2013. Dr. Robert Lustig looks at the screen. Colored flashes in the subject's brain, bright like Christmas lights. He just gave the person glucose, and what he sees makes him restart the scan 3 times. Because it's not just a reaction to food, it's a map of addiction. The nucleus accumbens, the pleasure center, flares up. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for self-control, dims. The insular cortex, associated with craving, glows. It's the exact same pattern he saw in the brain of a cocaine addict. Not similar, identical. A few months later, his article is published in Nature Neuroscience, And science doesn't just buzz, it collapses. Because if sugar causes the same neurobiological chain reaction as cocaine, then where is the line between dessert and a dose? Here's how it works. You eat a spoonful of sugar, your brain screams, "Reward!" Dopamine gushes like water from a burst pipe. You feel pleasure. But next time, that won't be enough. Receptors become dulled. Your brain demands more. And the self-control area? It tries to resist. But dopamine screams louder. You are not weak. You are not lacking willpower. You are a biochemical system that has been overloaded with signals. And it works the same way as with nicotine, alcohol, heroin. Only your dose is in the healthy eating aisle. Now imagine a teenager. His brain is like a sports car without brakes. The reward system is hyperactive. The prefrontal cortex, not yet fully developed. And when he drinks a sugary drink, his nucleus accumbens reacts twice as strongly as an adult's. This isn't just, I eat it because it tastes good. It's a neurochemical storm that rewrites the brain's wiring. And it does so permanently. Marketers know this. That's why their advertising isn't for you. It's for your inner teenager. Bright colors. Words like energy, fun, natural. But in reality, a trap. Grown in childhood. Reinforced in adolescence. And working for a lifetime. Check your refrigerator right now. That healthy yogurt? That energy smoothie? How much sugar is in them? You'll be surprised, because the industry doesn't sell sugar. It sells the illusion of control. And while you think you're choosing, your brain has already received its dose, and it's asking for more. But the brain is just the battlefield. The real war is being fought over trillions of neurons, and $92 billion a year. Maria Espinosa sits in her office on the 35th floor of a skyscraper in Chicago. Before her is a folder with internal reports, declassified in 2016. Graphs, children from 6 years old, consume twice as much sugar as recommended by the WHO. Reports, marketers replace the word sugar with natural juice concentrate or honey extract, and sales increase by 30%. Correspondence, laboratories receive grants for research blaming fats, not fructose. She was an executive director, and now her fingers are trembling not from caffeine, but from the realization she had fed the world a lie for 20 years, packaged in pink labels. The global sugar industry generates $92 billion a year. But its main trick isn't in volume, it's in penetration. 67% of all processed foods contain added sugar. Even in bread, even in baby food, even in that diet bar you grab for a snack. Manufacturers don't just add sugar. They embed your habit in it, your reflex, your craving. The more hidden sugar, the more often you return to the store. This isn't food. It's a subscription to addiction. And you pay for it every day. But here's the trap. High-income individuals consume 23% more hidden sugar than low-income individuals. The poor drink soda, and everyone knows it's harmful. The rich eat premium yogurt with coconut sugar and believe they're saving the planet and themselves. Marketing renames the poison, and you pay 5 times more for the same dose. Check your refrigerator right now. That organic smoothie. How much sugar is in it? You'll be surprised. Because you're not buying sweets. You're buying the illusion of control? Why isn't sugar banned? Why isn't it on WHO lists alongside opiates? Because behind every gram is a lobbyist in a $10,000 suit. Because regulators prefer recommendations over bans. And the industry pays for research that shifts the blame to fats, as it has done since the 60s. Do you think this is a choice? No, it's a system. And it works on you while you think you're working for yourself. Now your palms are a little damp. Your heart is beating a little faster. Because you've just realized even your healthy morning is part of someone else's profit. And $92 billion are built not on sugarcane, but on your gullibility. W.W. Hugh meeting room? On the projector screen, a graph, mortality from type 2 diabetes, is rising like the price of oil during wartime. The delegate from Brazil is silent. His country is the third largest exporter of sugarcane. The delegate from India looks at the floor. His regions live on sugar exports. When they vote, 27 no, 8 yes. The rest abstain. The proposal fails, not because of science, because of fear. To recognize sugar as a drug means to admit that the whole world is addicted, and that addiction is sold in the healthy food aisle. But let's look at the law. Substances come under control if they cause addiction, harm health, and threaten society. Sugar, 3 out of 3. Neurobiology confirms it overloads the pleasure center in the brain. Medicine states it kills slower, but more surely, than alcohol. The economy groans, healthcare systems are drowning in diabetic amputations and insulin bills. But there's a loophole. The law calls it a food ingredient, not a psychoactive substance. This is not a mistake. It's a legal trick. As if heroin were sold in pharmacies under the name vitamin G. Internal documents, declassified in 2016, show, as early as 1962, the Sugar Association paid scientists to shift attention from sugar to fats. A quote from a memo, "Fructose addiction could become a problem for the image." A problem, it was a conviction. But instead of warnings, marketing. Instead of labels saying natural, you thought you were choosing yogurt. In reality, you were getting a dose, packaged in a pink lie. And here's the paradox. Tobacco is outlawed almost everywhere. Alcohol is strictly controlled. But sugar? It's in baby food, in bread, in diet sauce. You can't get out of the game, because the game is your lunch, your breakfast, your dinner, and even your water. The system doesn't want you to quit. It wants you to pay. Again and again. Check your refrigerator. That organic granola. How much sugar is in it? You'll be surprised. Because addiction doesn't scream. It whispers. And it does so through the label you trustingly read every morning. He's 17. He decided to quit sugar. Seriously. No soda, no yogurts, no of those natural bars his mom puts in his lunch. For 3 days he holds on. On the 4th, he breaks in the cafeteria. Not because he's weak, but because there's corn syrup in the soup, maltodextrin in the bread, apple juice concentrate in the healthy snack. He tries to read labels, but gets lost in this list of betrayals: fructose, malt extract, dried glucose, inulin, yeast food, all of it sugar, just in a different disguise. His head is splitting. His fingers are trembling. In his chest, an emptiness, as if a piece has been torn out. He doesn't understand why he feels so bad. He just hadn't eaten anything sweet. But his brain already knows the truth. He deprived himself of a dose. And now his body demands it, like an addict in a cell. Do you feel it too? Remember the last time you went a day without sugar? Not without cake, but without everything. Without sauce, without bread, without yogurt, without even that water that's slightly sweetened for taste. Impossible. Because culture has turned sugar into a love language. Birthday cake, not a dessert. It's proof you're remembered. Chocolate after a bad day, not calories. It's comfort. Gingerbread cookies at Christmas. Not food. It's a ritual. And every time you participate in this ritual, your brain records sugar, safety. Sugar, joy. Sugar, I am loved. To break this connection means to be left alone in a world where comfort has become contraband. Check your water bottle. The one you drink after a workout. Even if it says sugar-free, look closer. Sometimes there's fructose. Sometimes sucralose. To make the taste smoother. You grab a protein bar. You think you're taking care of your body, but in reality, you're giving your brain a new dose. Even juice with no additives is pure glucose. In a pretty bottle, with an organic label, but for your pleasure center, there's no difference. Dopamine rush, insulin spike, crash, craving. The cycle closes, and you're back in the game. Sugar is no longer an ingredient, it's air, and you've been breathing it since childhood, since your first baby food, since your first good job, you ate it, here's a candy. This system doesn't want you to leave, it wants you to stay and pay. For the illusion of choice, for a ritual disguised as care, for an addiction packaged as a symbol of love. And as long as you believe it's just delicious, you won't leave. Because you'll have to run not from sweets, but from everything you considered familiar. Darkness. Only the dim light of headlights cutting through the dusty road. The truck has no license plates. The muffler is wrapped in burlap, so even the engine noise isn't heard. Behind the wheel, Javier, he's not carrying weapons, not carrying cocaine. He's carrying sugar, pure cane, packed in bags with the logo of a factory that closed before the ban. In this world, sugar is controlled like heroin, possession, prison time, selling, life. But the demand hasn't died. It's become quieter, deeper, more dangerous. Javier knows, if he's caught, he'll get 20 years. But if he doesn't deliver, his family will be found by those who pay $500 for a teaspoon. He turns onto a dirt road. Ahead, a checkpoint. His heart pounds as if it wants to burst out. But he's not afraid of the patrol. He's afraid the cargo will be fake. Because in this world, even sugar is counterfeited. The global logistics of sweets isn't just a chain from plantation to shelf. It's the arteries of the black market of the future. Brazil, India, Thailand, millions of acres of sugarcane, billions of tons of raw material. All of this cannot simply be turned off. Sugar is not a rare alkaloid. It can be grown in a garden, processed in a garage, hidden in a bag of flour. And billions of people still want it. Not as a treat, but as breath, as normalcy. So a ban won't destroy sugar. It will only push it into the shadows. And there it will become more expensive, more deadly, more powerful. And now the numbers. If sugar is declared a drug, its black market will explode to $200 billion a year. Yes, 200. For comparison, during Prohibition, alcohol brought criminal syndicates $2 billion in 1930s prices. Today, that's $30 billion. But sugar isn't whiskey. Children eat it. The elderly, vegans, monks. It's in bread, in sauce, in baby food. To remove it from life is like removing water. And the craving for sweets? It's stronger than fear. Stronger than the law. Stronger than conscience. Do you feel it too? Imagine your favorite yogurt disappeared from the shelves. Not because it ran out, but because it was banned. Where will you get real sweetness now? Not on the street. Not on the darknet. But behind a biometric door. In an underground bakery, where only those with recommendations are allowed. Where a slice of cake is paid for not with money but with silence. Where every teaspoon is like a memory of a world where pleasure wasn't a crime. This isn't fantasy. This is the logic of prohibition. And it's already knocking at your door. The door doesn't open. Not until you press your finger to the scanner. Not until the camera matches your face to the database. Not until the laser scans the veins on your arm, searching for traces of artificial sweeteners. Because here, in this basement of an old Parisian mansion, they serve only one thing: real sugar. No substitutes, no stevioside, erythritol, or aspartame. Only pure crystalline cane sugar. You enter. The air is heavy with the scent of vanilla, butter, and something ancient, sweet, almost sacred. People sit at tables in the dim light. No one talks loudly. Everyone knows you can't shout about what you found here, because tomorrow this place might be gone. A waitress approaches with a tray. On it, one slice of cake. Small, perfect. And it costs $500. You look at it, and you understand you're not buying dessert. You're buying a memory. The black market for sweets operates under the same laws as any other. First, scarcity. Then, hierarchy. At the bottom, cheap substitutes, underground labs, mixing maltodextrin with a drop of real syrup. In the middle, semi-finished products, smuggled bars, chocolates, jars of jam, smuggled across borders in false bottoms. And at the top, the elite, pure cane sugar, delivered directly from plantations, hand-processed, without traces of industrial additives. This market quickly differentiates itself. Sweetness dealers, bartender confectioners, couriers with biometric tags appear. And of course, wars break out, not for territory, but for access to the last legal factories that haven't yet closed. Because in a world where sugar is a drug, control over its source is power. $500 for a slice of cake. Sound insane? Now imagine, in this world you have no choice. All legal food, sugar-free, everywhere, substitutes. Everything, bitter, cloying, artificial. And here, in this basement, for the first time in years, you taste real sweetness. The kind from childhood, the kind associated with birthdays, with a first kiss, with home. And yes, it's expensive. But not because sugar is rare, but because it has become a symbol of lost freedom, a symbol of what was once normal and is now a crime. And the stricter the ban, the higher the price. Not in dollars, in desire. But we've been through this before, not with sugar, with other substances, with alcohol, with tobacco, and each time history repeated the same scenario. Prohibition didn't kill demand. It only made it more dangerous, more expensive, and more attractive. So maybe the problem isn't the substance. Maybe the problem is how we deal with it, how we allowed it to penetrate every corner of our lives, imperceptibly, quietly, sweetly. And if so, what then? To prohibit or to rethink? Look at your hands, they're not trembling. Yet. But you already feel a world without real sweetness is not freedom. It's a prison where every teaspoon is an act of defiance. You see, Chicago, 1925. Snow muffles the bootlegger's steps. He carries a crate of whiskey through the back alley of an abandoned bakery. Whiskey, that's status, protest, a breath of freedom. Almost a century later, a guy in a hoodie walks down the same street. In his backpack, not alcohol, but vacuum-sealed bags of white crystalline powder. Sugar. Pure cane. He's not carrying sweetness either. He's carrying memory. Of his grandmother's pancakes, of school breakfast, of a first date with a donut in hand. History doesn't repeat itself. It rhymes. Prohibition didn't kill alcohol. It killed control over it. Instead of factories, underground kitchens where methanol was brewed,
Instead of taxes, billions in Capone's pockets. Tobacco in countries with total bans didn't disappear, became more dangerous, murkier, more expensive. And sugar will follow the same path. A ban won't remove it from tables. It will remove it from labels. Children will eat sweets without knowing what's in them. Adults will pay triple for a dose. And addiction? It won't weaken. It will solidify. Because the forbidden always seems sweeter. Here's the paradox. When something is legal, it's boring. When forbidden, it's sacred. During Prohibition, there were more drunks, not fewer. They drank anything that burned. And if tomorrow sugar is declared a drug, millions will seek it out even more fiercely, especially those whose brains already know the taste of a dopamine hit, especially teenagers whose reward system is like an open faucet. A ban won't make sugar less desirable. It will turn it into a real drug, not by chemistry, by myth. Do you feel it too? Imagine your daughter brings home a special
Cupcake from school? Not from the cafeteria? From under the desk? You don't see the ingredients? You don't know if it's pure sugar or maltodextrin mixed in from a garage? But you see her eyes. They glow like those who have found the door to a forbidden world. And you are silent, because you remember what it's like to want what you can't have. Prohibition doesn't solve the problem of addiction. It creates a new one, black, without rules, without oversight. And the stricter the law, the stronger the craving. So if we want to get out of this trap, the answer isn't in prohibition, but in understanding, in ceasing to see sugar as an enemy and starting to see it as a mirror of a system that turned pleasure into a commodity and choice into an illusion. But are you ready to admit that the real addiction is not to sugar, but to how we've learned to fear it? He sits in the kitchen, 17 years old. Before him, a glass of water, oatmeal without honey, an apple without yogurt, 3 weeks without sugar, without soda, without natural bars, without even that cloying cranberry in the sauce. His head no longer splits. His sleep is deeper. But there's no victory, only weariness, because every day is a battle, not with himself, with a world where sweets hide in every corner. He looks out the window at an advertisement for a pure smoothie, reads the ingredients in his mind: coconut nectar, banana puree, date syrup, all of it, sugar, just in a different coat. He smiles, bitterly, because now he knows the system isn't broken. It's just learned to camouflage itself. And you? Do you feel it too? When you think you're choosing, but in reality you're being chosen. Science has already proven sugar activates the same pleasure center in the brain as cocaine. The economy has embedded it in 67% of products, even in bread, even in sausage. Culture has turned it into a love language: birthday cake, chocolate after tears, gingerbread for a holiday. And the law? It's silent. It calls sugar an ingredient, not a substance that rewrites your neurochemistry. And as long as that's the case, you're not choosing. You're participating. In a perfectly tuned machine, where your dopamine is currency and craving is the engine. Imagine, pleasure becomes control. Where then is the line? Maybe there isn't one. Maybe any habit, turned into a ritual, is already a chain. You think you're buying yogurt, but in reality you're buying access to a memory of childhood, of care, of being loved. And the industry? It doesn't sell sugar. It sells this illusion. And it does so skillfully that you don't even notice how your freedom of choice turns into a subscription to addiction. Check your refrigerator right now. That organic,
granola, that diet sauce. How much hidden sweetness is in them? You'll be surprised. Because sugar hasn't disappeared, it's just become invisible. And the more it hides, the more your brain learns to seek it out. Not as an enemy, as comfort, as normal, as air. Here's the paradox. True freedom begins not with refusal, but with awareness, with the understanding that you are not weak. You are part of a system designed to make you come back, again and again, not because of a lack of willpower, but because every label, every aroma, every holiday,
all of it works towards one goal: to keep you in the game. Now it's your turn. After everything you've heard, do you consider sugar a drug? Yes or no? Write it. Not for us, for yourself. Because the answer will change not only how you eat, but how you see the world.